Today we are talking about 35mm by Sony 1.8 FE or FE 1.8 35mm by Sony. So pretty old lens. It's been already almost 7 years, I believe, since its initial release. And during this time, I've been trying to perfect my Sony setup for travel, for YouTube work, for studio work, for client work, for every type of work. And I kind of failed, and then I had these moments of glory, and so on and so on. So I had wider brother, almost twin, 28mm, I believe 2.8, for many years until this lens fell apart. But somehow this 35mm lens skipped. I skipped it. I just overlooked it. I don't know why, but I just never tested it before. So today I'm gonna test, or I already did, optical tests of this lens. We will talk about build quality, but most importantly, can this lens actually be part of your perfect Sony setup to travel with, to do street photography, to do YouTube maybe videos, and all this kind of stuff. And finally, the brutal truth about FE 1.8 35mm by Sony. And we will also look at the competition, which was the biggest surprise for me. But let's wait with that one, because that's an interesting part here. And I don't know if you noticed this globe right here. Does it look good? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like the globe? But let's dive in. So first of all, build quality. When it was first released, I'm putting a little bit of history here in the perspective. When it was first released, I loved this look of lenses. It was something completely new to big, bulky, and very old-fashioned looking lenses from, I don't know, Canon, like this, L series, legendary one with red ring. This was something new, small, compact, designed for mirrorless cameras, something from the future. Unfortunately, it's not that much from the future anymore, but still this lens is small, it's capable, and it's well built. The ring works perfectly fine. There's autofocus and manual focus switch. There's a programmable button that initially serves as an autofocus lock, and that's pretty much it. There's not much to say about this lens besides the fact that it has 55mm thread, so that's a very popular filter size. Build quality is good. I mean, I would love to see a little bit of refresh on those lenses, but Sony does not seem to care a lot about those lenses, but maybe we'll see a Mark II version sometime from now. I don't know, nothing official there. I don't know anything from them directly, but anyways, let's talk about the optical quality. So, as I said, it's 7 years old, so sharpness is okay at 1.8 in the middle. It's really okay. It performs decently, and it was much better than a lot of lenses back then on the market when it was initially released. But since then, Chinese manufacturers were not sleeping. They were improving the optics. So from today's perspective, it's just sharp enough. In the corners, you can see a drop of sharpness and drop of contrast. So corners in this in case of this lens are not, the best. But it's not anything terrible, because if you work in real life, my reviews are always down to the earth, real life. So if you work in real life with clients, nobody looks at the corners. I mean, maybe 1% of you works with reproduction of art from art galleries, and then you don't use 35mm 1.8 for that kind of job. So who cares about the corners? But those corners are a little bit soft. But talking about the corners, what's the biggest flaw of this lens is, let's talk about the biggest flaw later. So now let's talk about the bokeh. And bokeh actually, it's a nice surprise to me. There is a little bit of touch of this vintage look to it, and I like it. It's a little bit swirly, so it reminds me slightly of those Helios, Russian Helios, 55mm, and this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I like the look of the bokeh, and I was positively surprised. Work against the light, typical for this kind of lens. There's a flaring, there's a little drop of contrast, but you know, it's okay. It's a decent performance. Stars, I've seen better, but I've seen worse. So if you like star effect between 11 and 16 like usual, it's okay. Where this lens is flawed a little bit is a chromatic aberration. You can see close-up image, but you know that this laboratory test doesn't show you everything, but in real life you can come across a little bit of purple fringing, and that's the reality of this lens. So I wouldn't call it a deal breaker, nothing major, but something to keep in mind. However, what stands out to me that this lens, despite its age, it's still very silent. The focus is very precise, fast, and I usually test it on, you know, 3 generations or 2 generations of camera, depending on how deep I want to dive. But even on A7 Mark III, which is actually recording this video right now, I don't know, I just like the look of videos from A7 Mark III. But this one is A7 Mark IV, and I mainly tested it on A7 Mark IV. However, the recording of the AF test is from A7 Mark III. Anyways, long story short, it performs very well. So it's fast, it's responsive, it doesn't hunt too much. So you can see that this is a native lens, and this is where this lens shines. Did I mention that my studio is powered now from solar energy, thanks to AllPowers sending me their great stuff? Please keep watching, so at the end I'll present what they have sent me. They did not sponsor this video, but I wanted to give them a shout because I really enjoy using their products. So keep on watching. You know, focus breathing is okay, it's pretty well controlled, it's nice. So everything so far was pretty decent. I wouldn't call it like, it's an okay lens. Now, where the biggest flaw comes in is, close-up image. Close-up image is also very nice. It's pretty sharp, there's a drop of sharpness, but usually with close-up you want to stop it down to something like 2.8, maybe even 3.5, and then the sharpness comes back. Anyways, let's go back to the biggest flaw. The biggest flaw of this lens is vignetting, and lenses, some lenses from that age, like 2019 more or less-ish, you know, had this problem that they just produce a little bit too much vignetting. And this lens is unfortunately flowed with quite huge vignette. The distortion, there's a little bit of pincushion to my surprise, but this is okay. Everything can be forgiven, but this vignetting is unfortunately a little stubborn, because if you stop it down, the vignetting doesn't really goes away. So, you know, would I say it's a deal breaker? No. If you like vignetting, no. But if you want a clean image, it might be. So, to give you a perspective now, let's talk about the competition, because we are looking at the brutal truth of this lens. It's 7 years old, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but if we consider the price, for more or less half of the price, you can buy Samyang lens. Because honestly, I always say like Sony E-mount is the biggest mount of them all, you know? It's just, you have the variety there, you have the choice, amazing one, right? And let me rotate my globe. I just love this new like touch. Anyways, so, and I thought like when I searched for 35mm full frame autofocus lightweight lens, because there's a lot of 35mm lenses on Sony system if you consider like 1.4, 1.2, like there's amazing variety. But if you want something that I said in the beginning that you can travel with, that is lightweight and, you know, makes your Sony setup perfect for traveling, then the story is not that, you know, it's different than I thought. So basically the main competitor I would say here is Samyang 1.8 FE, and there's a new Samyang version P. I didn't test the P version yet. I had 35mm in my hand, so it performed a little kind of similar in many respects with a little less vignetting, and you can get it for half of the price of Sony lens. So now comes the question, would I recommend this lens as a perfect Sony setup lens to make your Sony look small, insignificant, and good for street photography and traveling, so you don't shout, "I'm a pro"? I don't know. I know you expected some like amazing conclusion maybe here, but I just don't know if I would recommend it. I would say for some people, having this original Sony lens with this original Sony look, which actually it looks like, you know, it blends in. It looks very, very much from the same, you know, like from the, it looks fine. It looks okay. It looks great. It looks like one big set made by one manufacturer and designed by the same company. So that is obviously a very big, you know, advantage of this lens. But if you take into consideration your budget and you want the best lens, I would probably wait for Samyang, the P version. You know, I don't know why they call it P. Like, if you know, well, let me know in the comments below, because economically this will be better. And I believe since it's a much newer lens, this lens, when I test it, probably will be just better optically. So you can also opt in for the older Samyang, but that is a matter of choice if you just like to stick with the original stuff, if you want all Sony, or you don't mind to have something that looks a little different on your body, and you want something that is just cheaper and sometimes, in many cases, performs better. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this lens and about my setup. Is it like perfected setup, or I still need to search for the perfect setup? And of course, if you subscribe and if you leave thumbs up, if you comment below, this helps this channel a lot. It's a small channel, but I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing, and I am honest about what I'm doing. And very importantly, now my studio is powered completely from solar panels, and I want to give a shout to a company that did not sponsor this video but sent me an awesome stuff. This is AllPowers power station with solar panels, and I'm amazed that I can run this studio 100% free. I can charge all my batteries, run all my lights, all my computers on just this power station. So take a look at yourself. Like, this power station is huge. It's not just a power bank, but you can take it to, you know, campsite. You can make coffee on it. You can even run, you know, like home appliances on it. Of course, I did test it because it's so cool to test, like, you know, free power. And AllPowers and the build quality is just making great job there. They support, you know, adventure people. Like, if you want to go camping, if you want to be like completely independent from the grid, you are good to go. But if you just like to have solar power in your studio and you like to power your stuff on the go, maybe like your setup when you're taking photos out there close to the beach, on the rocks, wherever you go, or you just like to put it in your home, and like in your home studio in this case, and power everything around you with solar energy, AllPowers get you set. So I hope you'll take a look at the links below, because I left links below to AllPowers and other stuff like this 35mm lens on Amazon. And that's it for today. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.